I didn't really want it to end. Even when I was shooting, I was like, I'd actually quite like to be here.
It's this incredibly touching story. It's a love story, but it's filled with all kinds of humor and poignancy. Just a really rich tapestry.
It's first love. It's lost love. It's people who have forgotten how to love.
It's about working out what life is all about and maybe not coming up with the answers, but approaching an answer.
It goes so deep into how people really feel about each other.
I love it. You toss that word around like it was some kind of currency. You have no idea what it means.
Here are young people, and there's a great sensitivity about them.
They're really good characters.
It rings very true. The drama, the tragedy, the fun stuff.
It's a deep tragedy on a perfect blue day of a story.
The movie is based on what it's like to be in love at that age and all of the feelings that you have and how intense and heartfelt and passionate they are.
Their relationship is so beautifully formed and so realistic.
She shows him how to live and how to mature, and not so much just being attracted to each other, but knowing each other and how important that is to actually find someone who you can really know.
Each of them have had family tragedies that have left them wandering a bit in life.
That's sort of something that they bond over.
In a lot of ways, it's to do with how people deal with the later stages of grief and how it affects a family.
It's a very interesting, fabulous family. They're very privileged in one way, but yet they're struggling and they go through a lot.
Every character in this has a little damaged aspect of themselves, which I think anybody that's honest has to recognize in themselves.
Tyler wants his father to behave in a certain way which he doesn't even really know what it is, and so he's never going to be satisfied with it.
That's all there is, Tyler.
That's all there is? Not enough.
He wants the best. He just doesn't know how to express it to his son.
These are all grudges and grievances which he's held for years. They've all just been not even simmering, but they're just old and they've had the same fights before. He's sick of having the same rages.
It's an interesting age to follow a character. I think every person goes through periods of time where you've got this belief that because you read some books that you somehow have a greater understanding than, all the silly adults.
You could do worse than have a father who bails you out of jail.
I don't want to be bailed out of anything.
Will Fetters wrote this incredibly touching story. It just had so many elements. It was funny, and it was poignant and sexy.
He just wrote an amazing first draft, which totally blew me away. And I said, we have to make this movie.
I've never done anything with young people, and so I thought there was a chance to tell the truth about what it felt like, and I thought Will caught it.
What I first liked about it is the way Tyler spoke. I had a voice kind of immediately.
You know you can't smoke in here.
Why'd you have an ashtray?
It's a bowl. It completes the room.
I guess it was just here to tease me.
The script was written in such an honest way that you really feel for these people. I mean, every time I read the script, I cry.
It has such a heart.
The running joke with my wife is, if I read it and it says on the front page, "We open in New York," I go, I like the script. In this case, as it turned out, I did like the script. And I wanted to continue to push for the script and the story to be as truthful as I knew how to make it, and place this as truly in the city as we could.
Everything for him has been about authenticity and getting the script and the story to a place where people can see this and believe these people came from New York.
Going to Queens. Don't want to hear about it.
It's a New York story. It's some of the love letter to New York.
Where else could you shoot it?
We really tried to embrace the city as we know it was at the time that the story takes place. Naturally, it's great to shoot in the city.
We got to shoot in a lot of the actual places, like in Don Hills, in NYU. He works in the Strand, and we shot in the Strand, which is kind of handy.
When you're shooting on the streets, outdoors, the atmosphere does nothing but help you as an actor.
All right, that's it! That's it! Everybody's gone!
You do get inspired by a lot of things you just see in the street. I mean, also just having the crowds, it kind of adds a bit of intensity to stuff.
Life goes on in New York, and I like that. It definitely adds something to the film.
September 11th just left a mark on my heart, and I was just trying to find a way to understand how and why. This story and this movie came from that.
9/11 is, as a country, the event which most of us recognize as about loss.
Each one of those little portraits that I remember reading were kind of heartrending in their brevity.
You read those and you realize that real people died, because otherwise the people who died in 9/11 become a statistic.
And what Will, I think, did very wisely beyond his years was to take that idea and say, well, what if we fell in love with these people and then a great loss occurred? Wouldn't you feel the import of that, both in terms of just the movie and then in terms of this greater event that happened?
Tyler represents the fact that real people got up that morning and didn't come back.
There were so many stories in this one event. It personalizes that tragedy in a way that I hope has a powerful, emotional, cathartic effect on the audience that we think of really good tragedies as having.
It seems only fitting that to bring the story to life, we would have someone who had experienced the city and knew it so well.
Seeing his work in Hollywoodland, I thought he was a true filmmaker.
He's one of these directors, which is kind of rare, who's very set in his ways of what he wants to do as far as his shots and his ideas.
You'll just go with your hand, right? Yes. That way you can slide.
But he's also completely open to suggestions.
He did really give us free rein with these characters.
He's so open with how a scene plays out.
They've just gone and destroyed whatever it's just like, oh, it's in the background, but I think that there's moments here where that kind of gets shoved aside.
He's a real sort of actor's director.
He's very subtle, but he knows where we're heading and he gets us there.
I don't want to start the way we did. I have never drifted into their mind.
There's little nuances that he's brought to every scene that only somebody who's lived here for 20 years and really observed the city and lived it and breathed it will be able to bring.
Cut. Very good.
Because it happens in the recent past, we didn't want to emphasize that. So we decided to play it very simply, visually. I worked very closely with Jonathan Freeman, who's the cinematographer. And we ultimately came up with the idea that it should just simply feel real. We just didn't want it to look effective.
The most difficult part is to try and remain true to the earlier period and not float ahead of yourself. The character Robert Pattinson plays as a student at NYU, he really is with the kids that are wearing what is the moment. So I tried to avoid that which is immediately present. It had to be a little less time specific.
We felt like we shouldn't intrude. The camera kind of moves a little bit less. The palette, we felt we wanted to give it a slight patina, but nothing that you really notice. Just a slight dusting of the past.
He and Jonathan came up with kind of a color code. No color is super, super intense. There are many colors, but they're all slightly faded.
I looked at photographs of young people in New York from the slightly earlier period. There was a sort of chaotic feel to it, and we hoped that we kind of caught that a little bit, the kind of mess of youth.
I love the set they built for my apartment, which even though it's on a soundstage, it does look very New York. I mean, I've been to an apartment which looks just like it.
The design of the apartment, which plays such a critical role in the film, I thought it was beautifully made. From the way that we shot it to its fundamental design, to the way it was executed, and the use of sound. We wanted to give a sense of real life to the world that Tyler Hawkins exists in. I really think casting is one of the director's greatest tools.
Action.
It's this American story. And I didn't set out to cast a bunch of people from other countries, but we ended up with a guy from England, a young woman from Australia, an Irishman, and a woman from Sweden. But that's America, right? Rob expressed interest in the role precisely because he thought he understood the character.
It's the first time I played a normal guy. Tyler's at that point where he's just starting to not feel like an island. He's just a little bit lost.
Rob really took hold of that character and ran with it.
I've never seen anyone lose themselves in a character and come out on the other side exactly as I could have hoped and better.
He did not want to just be the good guy, the cool guy. He embodied this guy who's filled with complexity, anger, guilt, frustration in his relationship with his father.
Why aren't you listening? I mean, why aren't you riveted? Why is this not the most important thing just for one night?
He has that attitude which a lot of 21-year-old guys have, where they think they know better than everyone else, but don't feel the need to prove it in any way whatsoever.
There was a very serious physical confrontation between Tyler and Neil Craig, played by Chris Cooper. That's a very intense scene that I enjoyed.
Now I'm going to cut to him as well as to this shot. Tempo. And action.
The most surprising thing about Chris is how strong he is, like physically.
Boy, was this tailor-made for him. Robert can deliver that sensitivity.
I like the scene of Tyler waking up and making bird shadows. I think it's a very lovely little moment of his feeling good about the world.
He brought all these intricate details to this character that I was just like, how do you come up with these things?
He has a very watchable, likable intensity to him.
He doesn't go about it lightly. He wants to challenge himself. He wants to try different options. He wants to find the truth in the scene.
He takes it extremely seriously and really wants to do the best job he can.
He's a young man who's just catapulted into the stratosphere of fame. And I know he's been instrumental in making this movie happen. And that's a great thing to see.
He was very involved in the film. When we were working on the script, we'd get on the phone with Rob and we would download his ideas. He's been instrumental in helping us get the film made.
I don't date sociology majors.
Lucky for you, I'm undecided.
About what?
Everything.
The toughest thing was trying to find Allie.
It was a long search for the young woman. We wanted to find someone who could be certainly a good match for Rob, but she also could have this kind of toughness about her and could stand up to him.
And then we saw a tape of Emily.
She exuded an enormous amount of charm.
And so after this crazy 3 or 4 month search for Allie, suddenly everyone on the movie fell in love with her.
Emily had that kind of spark, and it ended up being really great.
She brings the spunk to the character that we need in that working class girl.
She is a button of a beauty.
Alan and I had talked about the ending shot of the film years before, but we never could have imagined that it would look as beautiful as it did. She was just flawless.
I feel like the casting of all the minor roles really creates the complete tapestry. And that's an area that I really take a great deal of interest in. If those are all just right, then that world seems to be complete and people accept it as real. Everything we did with Ruby Gerrans, who plays his younger sister Caroline, was a delight.
She's really great. She has something about her which is really easy to play off.
You smell like Listerine and beer.
You can just literally watch her and you're completely unaware you're in a scene.
She's a little scene stealer. She has this adult kind of confidence.
Why do you think Dad doesn't want to listen to me?
Dad loves you.
So, you can love someone and not want to spend time with them.
Yeah, you got that right.
Movies like this can be a great keepsake that you go back to just to relish the emotion of it, to feel the pain of those characters, to feel the turmoil and the joy of those characters. You want the audience to say, yeah, I could sit down and watch it again.
First time I'm ever seeing anything I wrote put on screen. It's, Chris Cooper and Rob Pattinson, Pierce Brosnan. So to see it actually come to fruition, it's a really, really cool feeling.
I think it's ended up being a movie which neither of us knew we were going to make. And hopefully that will be interesting.
I think people are going to really associate with their issues and their problems and their ups and their downs.
I hope that by falling in love with this couple and with these people, you would re-experience that event a different way.
You don't want to bring them back to the fear and pain, but you want to let them leave that theater and maybe remember how they felt.
I do think that it makes you think about your own life and what is important.
I hope that they feel moved and at the same time somehow positive. Life goes on.